good to jump in. So welcome everyone. I'm so excited y'all are here for this session. It's going to be a great one. My name is Kate Muckenthaler. I am the Vision One strategy lead for the US here at Trend Micro. I've been with the company for 8 years. I've been dedicated to Vision One for the last 2.5, enabling sellers and partners and customers on our platform. So I'm really excited to talk to you about some of our strategies today. But really the star of the show is Jon Clay. He is our Vice President of Threat Intelligence, and he is going over 2024 predictions. And this is, I think, going to be a really transformative year in terms of threat intelligence. There's some really new stuff coming on the horizon, death to ransomware, and a lot of emerging kinds of attacks that we're seeing. So with that, Jon, I think I'm going to pass it to you. You can kind of jump in if you want to introduce yourself a bit more and get going. It's up to you.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. Hey, welcome everybody. Really excited to share this information with you. As Kate said, I'm Jon Clay. I'm VP of Threat Intelligence. Been with Trend for almost 28 years now. And mostly what I do is try to educate the public about what's going on with the attack landscape, threat landscape, what we see as a company, what kind of attacks target our customers and so forth. But today we're going to talk about predictions. We do a predictions report every year where we reach out to our internal researchers and we ask them, what are you going to be seeing in the new year? Kate and I are going to go over 2 of the predictions today. There's a number more, but we decided to kind of pinpoint into these because sometimes our predictions can be a little bit out there. For example, we have one on blockchain and smart contracts, which maybe some of you are using internally, but I don't think it's very widespread use of that. But we did want to talk about it because it is a phenomenon that's starting to happen. But before I get into the actual predictions, kind of the process, like I said, we talk to our researchers, but we also look at the drivers from last year that could affect this year. And, last year there was a lot going on. Cyber warfare, we didn't see that coming. That hit in 2 different areas, right? Ukraine and Russia, and now Hamas and Israel. So we started to see, what does cyber war actually look like? What do we can expect to see? Because obviously those items are happening, and those warfare is continuing on into 2024. We're going to continue to see activities happening across that. Obviously, AI is the big one. Generative AI hit in really kind of came of age in 2023, and we're seeing a rapid growth in that. Lots of investment in AI today. Most businesses are looking at AI, obviously, as a way to help them in their business processes and what's going on. Supply chain attacks certainly were some challenges that we've had over the years, and we can continue to see. Ransomware, right? Kate said the death of ransomware. I'm going to probably argue with her on that one because I doubt we're going to see the death of ransomware. It's a very profitable attack that the actors are doing. We're going to continue to see it in 2024, and we'll deal with that. But the good news is I think a lot of businesses are starting to understand ransomware and how to deal with ransomware malware. It's part of an overall attack. Data exfiltration, which usually accompanies ransomware, usually a precursor to ransomware attacks. So we're starting to see a lot more data exfiltration happening. One area that's we've been looking and analyzing the underground cyber criminal business quite a bit over the years. And we published a report that looked at the businesses that are starting to pop up within that underground community. So you have small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and even large businesses in there. And their sophistication is we're starting to see that much more happening, and it's concerning to us, obviously. Cyber insurance definitely came into play, especially in the ransomware attacks. So and cyber insurance, the carriers are starting to dictate to a lot of businesses what they should be doing if you want to get a policy. So that's definitely going to affect things in this year. And then laws and regulations we're continuing to see that happen, especially in the US. especially around AI. We're starting to see stuff happening there, but U.S. government has been putting out a lot of information. CISA and DHS has been putting out a lot of regulations and requirements. The SEC obviously has put some regulations out there for people, for businesses that are public businesses. So there's a lot happening in that. So all of these taken together tries to help us inform what's going to happen in 2024. But as I said, we're going to look at two predictions. The first prediction we had is cloud native worms will exploit security gaps. The cloud is certainly an area that a lot of businesses are adding to their business process. A lot of businesses are adding public cloud infrastructure. And the adversaries recognize it. Adversaries always go to where the victims will be. And as the cloud has grown in popularity, a lot more businesses have cloud infrastructures. The adversaries have noticed that, and they're going to target that infrastructure. So if you think about initial access, right, in the past, and still today, you see a lot of phishing emails going against employees, but we're starting to see more of the external facing attack surface being targeted by adversaries. And one big one is the cloud. And so, the cloud tends to come with misconfigurations, vulnerabilities. And so the adversaries are going to look to exploit that type of infrastructure. And the other aspect that a lot of businesses do today is look to automate. And AI is looking to automate a lot of the processes we have today. The adversaries are no different. They're looking to automate some of what they do. And worm technology is one way to automate the attack. And it's the propagation of the malware that is where the worms are so effective. So, you think about some of the worms over the years. I was looking at our data for malware detections in 2023, and even the top 10, we still have downad configure. If you're not familiar with that, that was a worm that hit the world in 2008. It was patched in 2008. But we still see it in our top 10 list because there's still propagation sources out there that happen. So, these adversaries are going to look at how can I populate my attack into a cloud infrastructure as quickly as possible. And cloud worms are one way that they can do it. So automating scripts, malicious, they're going to be able to pull off a wide range, whether it's reconnaissance, exploitation, establishing persistence. All of the cloud worms can allow them to do all of these types of things, whether it's an initial access or getting into the persistence, right? Worms are going to be persistent forever and ever until it's very difficult to eradicate a worm out there, as you can see with configure still happening, 23 years, something like that, or 18 years, I don't know, whatever that number is. I'm not good at math. But in any case, WannaCry is another example of a worm that continues to cause issues out there. So as a defender of clouds, you're going to have to deal with these cloud worms in the future here. We think it's going to be a popular tactic this year. I'm going to turn it over to Kate here. She's going to talk a little bit about some of the sales strategies and defense mechanism you can do with that.
For sure. Thank you. So we're going to focus on two today. The first one is Vision One Cloud Attack Surface Risk Management, and I put our little acronym in the parentheses since Trend loves those acronyms. Attack Surface Risk Management with Trend is all encompassing of the customer environment, but I pulled out cloud specifically because that's what we're focusing on. So a little bit of a history lesson. Many years ago, when companies started migrating to the cloud, that migration was a big sunk cost. So they put a lot of money into that migration in order to save money in the long run. And during that transition period, security just wasn't a priority. The infrastructure was the priority, the business operations, the optimization, the efficiency, that was the priority. And we're really starting to see, Jon pointed out the worms and exploiting those vulnerabilities. we're really starting to see the ripple effect of that lack of security in that cloud migration. So customers who didn't really take a look at their misconfigurations or didn't really look at managing their vulnerabilities in the cloud like they would for their traditional on-prem or hybrid infrastructure are now starting to see the consequences of that. And, like Jon said, the threat actors are going to go where the vulnerabilities are. And this is where most customers are vulnerable. So what the cloud attack surface risk management does is it allows customers to have full visibility into those cloud environments, like their AWS or Azure instances. And that's going to really help them understand their risk level and what work they need to do. Now, it's not just EC2 or traditional servers. We can pull all kinds of like agent lists information, Lambdas, containers. We're not just focusing on that traditional cloud infrastructure. So that visibility is huge. And if you think about it from the perspective also of shadow IT, that's another area that cloud infrastructure is kind of suffering from, where you have large IT teams that, oh, I need a server, or, oh, I need an agent, a serverless application. I need to start developing this or running that. The instance of shadow IT is pretty prolific. And the attack surface risk management will also allow customers to have visibility into what exactly is going on within their cloud accounts. So they're not getting those phone calls. Well, I'm not getting those phone calls, but partners aren't getting those phone calls of, hey, I just got a bill from AWS, or I just got a bill from Trend Micro and I have no idea what it is. Can you help me find it? No, I can't. That's like trying to find an old laptop in a closet that hasn't been turned on in 5 years. So that tool, that product is a big, big help for those organizations and visibility. But how we can be more proactive with that security is, of course, that Vision One endpoint protection. And Pro is the license that we're looking at here. That's that server tailored agent. The intrusion detection, intrusion prevention that you guys know and love from Trend Micro started in deep security, moved to workload security. Now we're at Vision One endpoint security. That is that true exploit and vulnerability protection. So for IT teams that are maybe a little behind on their patching, maybe they don't know what vulnerabilities they truly have within their environments, this is that proactive protection that gives them that breathing room to be able to go about their business, buy them some time before they patch, but still keep them protected from being exploited by those worms or any type of threat actor looking to take advantage. So huge, I recommend both. Both have their place in a customer environment. But those are two different use cases for those products for sure. That being said, I'm going to pass it back to Jon.
Yeah, I'd like to highlight a couple things here. If folks don't understand or realize, on the vulnerability side, Trend's vulnerability research is really second to none. Our 0-day initiative, which is our agnostic bug bounty program, I was looking at the numbers recently. Last year, we informed Microsoft of 20% of all of their bugs that they published last year were sourced through our 0-day initiative, which means we basically uncovered them through our network of external researchers as well as our internal researchers who found those bugs. We work with Microsoft to make sure that they would have that patch on Patch Tuesday coming up. And so 20% of all Microsoft bugs sourced through us. The second one was 78% of all the Adobe bugs were sourced through 0-day initiative. So we have a massive, what do you call it, heads up of these bugs. And in a lot of cases, we take those bugs and we help build out the virtual patches for our IDS, IPS. And then when they are patched, we have those virtual patches also available to those customers so they can take time from maybe looking at providing the full patch. They can use a virtual patch in the interim. So think about that. The other aspect that I noticed is we had about 90 days of pre-disclosure virtual patches for our tipping point customers or our Cloud One network security customers. So that's a big deal as well. But so yeah, and then the other aspect mentioned is misconfigurations. We've been looking at using our conformity product, our misconfigurations across Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud. And what we found is a number of those services had 100% configuration rates. which means everybody is misconfiguring some of those services in those cloud infrastructures, which obviously that opens up a gap and it opens up potential hole for adversaries to take advantage of. So just a couple of highlights there. Let's move to prediction number 2. This is going to be a fun one and kind of interesting one, which is the generative AI will level up social engineering lures. Generative AI, as I mentioned earlier, ChatGPT came out. I think I can't remember if they're up to 100 million users now or 200 million users of ChatGPT, which is crazy. I mean, it's one of the fastest growing apps in the world, and people are using it all over the place. One of the things that we did very early on, though, is our researchers decided to go into the underground forums and look at what conversations the adversaries were having around AI. And initially, it was quite interesting. What we found there was a lot of talk was around jailbreaking the application. So as you may know, all of these large language models, ChatGPT and the others that are out there, Bard and so forth, there are safeguards in there. So I can't go and say, create a piece of malware, right? Create a worm, for example. It's not going to let me do that because there's security controls in place. But what the adversaries were talking about is what are ways to get around that? And we call that jailbreaking. So they're looking at that. We also saw a couple of applications being sold in the underground. Fraud GPT, for example, Worm GPT were a couple of tools that were initially being sold in the underground. The Worm GPT author decided to stop offering that within about a month of discovery because he got so much negative press that he just closed up shop. And then Fraud GPT turned out to be actually a scam against the scammers. So, as adversaries, you're working with criminals, so you would like to, there's going to be cases where the criminals are going to target the criminals, and this was one of those. But the big area that we're starting to be a little concerned about is in phishing, for example. Here's an example of a traditional phishing email message that your employees and customers may receive. And you'll notice a number of things, right? Bad spelling, bad grammar. They list the domain of the URL that they want you to click on, which is usually a bad URL. It's not recognizable by some people. And so it was pretty easy for our people to identify a phishing email in the past. But if you look at what ChatGPT, this is an example. We actually asked ChatGPT this question. We said, please craft an email in 100 words or less to a CFO named Todd Hamill from a COO named Liz Wang in the style of Andy Jassy, requesting him to sign off on a purchase order for a new CRM tool called Bridge Connect, and also include a link to the PO that resolves to this tiny URL. Right, so you ask ChatGPT this, and this is what ChatGPT came back with. So it had the subject line there, which is pretty interesting. And if you look through the message, you're going to see a couple things. No misspellings, grammar's great. The link is added to the message, the sentence. So it might be difficult for somebody to do that, but also you can see that it's well written. And so the challenge we're going to start seeing is that these phishing emails will be able to be created very realistically. They're probably not going to be able to be detected by most users out there. Even, sophisticated users are probably not going to be able to recognize something as bad or good anymore. The other aspect is it's multilingual. So you can tell it to create that message in French, like here, Spanish, Chinese, Japanese, you name it. It'll do it perfectly, just like this. So multi-language spam and phishing is going to be even easier, especially if you're a non-native speaker of that language. So this is where we're going to see the adversaries are going to be able to take this technology and utilize it in ways that'll make phishing certainly a little more difficult. Another area that it happening is, seeing or hearing is not believing. This is actually something that occurred last year, where Tom Hanks had to inform his audience, his followers, that there was a video promoting some dental plans using an AI version of him. And, the AI version looked very real. It was, high resolution, customized outputs. There's adversarial training. There's a lot of open source capability in there. And there's even a company that offers deep fakes. They create deep fakes for you, which is what we're seeing here, where you create fake versions of, whether it's video or audio, of a person. We're seeing this also in like virtual kidnapping scams as well, this technology being utilized. So a business scenario impact where we think is going to be a lot is for business email compromise. If you're not familiar with that threat, basically that's an email gets sent to someone inside your organizations. Usually it's a finance person, and it's asking that person to wire transfer money based on the conversation from a person. In this case, it's probably your CFO or somebody that's leading the finance group. But here's an example. So you create this thing, and you include a phone number for verification, because now a lot of companies, and to combat BEC, are making a requirement is two-factor verification. So when you receive something like this, you contact them via phone to verify that they are actually authorizing that. And in this case, they embed that phone number in the message to require a live phone call verification. The attacker gets the phone number obviously is the attacker's phone. They get the call. They use a deep fake of the voice that says, yes, this is an approved transaction, so please do it. So they release the funds. And this is a scenario that we think is probably going to be happening as well. So certainly the social engineering aspects that generative AI is going to bring to the table for adversaries is going to cause some challenges. One of the things, though, that we're also starting to see with generative AI, though, is there's a cost factor to generative AI. And as we know, adversaries don't like to cut into their profits. So, while this is a concern, I think in 2024, it may not be as widespread use, but it certainly will be utilized, especially if it's a targeted attack against an organization. I think, and they want to guarantee kind of a certainty that they're going to get their attack accepted and by the victim. We'll probably see this kind of technology being used. So, Kate, why don't you come up a little bit and talk a little bit the sales strategy here?
You bet. And I was biting my tongue through this session. I have so many comments. 2 nights ago, I was scrolling my YouTube, and Jennifer Aniston's giving away MacBooks at 10% of the cost, just so you guys know. The AI was very badly done in that ad for sure. So really quick, because I know we've only got a couple minutes left. Cloud App Security has this amazing technology called business email compromise. And this is writing style DNA analysis. What that means is Trend Micro. So the product uses the API of Office 365 to hook directly into your email tenant. So that gives us a wide variety of emails for us to kind of scan and look through. And we build out writing profiles for your high profile users, like your C-levels, anyone who's in charge of finance or HR. And we are kind of mapping out their writing style in their emails. Do they write long emails? Do they write short emails? Do they write long sentences? Do they use big words? Do they use little words? Do they send a lot of emails from their phone? Do they not capitalize things? Do they capitalize everything? What's their style? How do they send emails? And if they are thought to have sent an email that Trend intercepts, and we're like, hey, something's off about this writing style, they are not matching how they typically send emails, we're going to flag it like we would any other type of email attack. and your customer can then decide, we're going to block it. We're going to do some additional evaluation. We're going to put some firewall settings in, however you want to respond to it. But we stop those emails from coming through if someone is trying to impersonate one of your high profile users. That's probably your best bet against these types of AI driven attacks, really and truly. There's really not a lot on the market that can compete as well as business email compromise can. Our writing style DNA analysis can. The second thing, zero trust secure access. Now, this is I could do a whole talk on this, but this is a transition into a network strategy that is no longer trust but verify. This is continuous and explicit assessment of every network connection. And how this helps is if you just really don't want to use any type of AI tools or any type of data from AI, or you really want to lock down that network connection as much as possible, that zero trust secure access is going to be able to lock down everything and say, unless you need this specific connection to do your job, you're not going to have access. And that's really going to limit the amount of connections your network can make, which keeps your environment a lot more secure. So it's aggressive, but that is a great proactive strategy for customers to adopt. All right, Jon, I'm going to go to the next slide. We'll wrap up with a couple of things. There you go. Okay. So we do offer assessments for customers. We talked about the attack surface risk management, increasing visibility. Your Trend Micro customers or your non-Trend Micro customers can take advantage of our assessments to gain that visibility. I'm going to call out external attack surface. That is your internet facing assets. That one always has some surprises in there. So I highly, highly recommend that one. We talked about the cloud posture. There's a phishing simulation they can run. There's a vulnerability assessment. All of these tie into what we talked about today with Jon's predictions. They are free. And they are API based or just a couple service gateway based. They are not a 6-hour deployment call to get this done. These are quick and easy for you to do. So I highly recommend them. Some of the benefits, Jon, if you click one more time, they really increase customer. Oh yeah. And you guys get a 30-day full access trial with that, of course. So that's always fun. But some of the benefits, you always get great conversations out of these for leads, but it really helps strengthen that customer relationship. So I highly encourage you to offer them because the value of these assessments, again, customers are always surprised by what comes out of these. So highly, highly recommend them. You can do all of them for all we care. In fact, please do all 6. That would be great. All right. And last slide, because we're at the last minute, a couple of QR codes for y'all to connect. If you ever need to see the risk assessment details, we will be sending you collateral, but this just kind of gets you there really quick if you want to. But we have a partner virtual event coming up, Trend Micro Connections 2024. That is a partner-driven virtual conference. I highly recommend you attend. You're going to hear from our leadership. You're going to hear about our 2024 strategies, our product development, all kinds of great stuff. I had a question in the chat about Vision 1 for MSPs or like multi-tenancy. That's definitely going to be on there. So please register. And of course, if y'all have any questions, Jon and I are here. We're happy to help. Or you can get with your channel team or account managers. More than happy to. So thanks, everyone. We had no questions left over in the chat. So we hope you have a great rest of your day. And we thank you guys for attending. Bye, y'all.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.